Chairwoman Bear and committee members, last weekend there was another senseless mass shooting in Colorado Springs. The LGBTQ community was clearly targeted in this latest attack, and I place the blame on actions such as this at the feet of mass resistance and all who espouse their beliefs. Mass resistance tries to marginalize alternative lifestyles and would like nothing better than to put others back in the closet. Instead of embracing our library and its efforts to serve all members of our community, you are doing everything you can to push LGBTQ plus members and their needs underground. You all are part of the national attack on the LGBTQ plus community. And I'm wondering if any of you have stopped to take stock of whether your hatred, misinformation, and attacks on members of our LGBTQ plus community and the information they can access could have had any influence on the events of the weekend. Emotionally charged terms such as, and I quote, depraved library staff and public officials, and again, I quote, after all these years of exposing, fighting, and stopping the horrible culture war assaults by the left on children, end quote, which appear on Mass Resistance's website are inflammatory, inaccurate, and misleading. There has never been a culture war by the left. Mass resistance has come to our community to create a problem where there was none. By twisting the definition of pornography, they are maintaining that these books, which contain sex educational information, are pornographic. Pornography is the printed or visual material containing the explicit description or display of sexual organs or activity intended to stimulate erotic rather than aesthetic or emotional feeling. Those are the key words. If the illustrations which are in the book, this book is gay, stimulate erotic feelings in anyone, then I feel sorry for you. It is clearly a how-to book, which only kids who are ready for that kind of information will avail themselves of. I would have been mortified to have seen any information on sex for the longest time. I was a late bloomer, but that does not mean that it should not be available for others to read. Thank you for maintaining the library as a safe place for kids to hang out at the library. The library is a safe and wonderful place for children to hang out. It is much healthier for children to be among other kids than to be home alone or alone on a playground. There has not been a problem with kids at the library, so I'm relieved you have chosen to maintain this safe place for our kids. Thank you very much.
Jen Westberg.
Thank you, members of the board. I would like to speak to you today as a lame duck state senator. And over the years, the 20-year career of my legislative career.
Use the mic.
Use the phone, can't hear. Use the little one. Well,
Over the years, I have spent many hours with librarians across the state. And one of my favorite receptions to go to was the Wyoming Library Association's reception. And the reason why I liked it was because the librarians brought potluck every time. It was always homemade, it was always delicious. There was all kinds of dishes by the librarians. But I particularly look forward to meeting with my librarian here, but also I represented Wright at the time, and also my Wright branch. And so by the time it was over, the 20 years that I have spent in the legislature, probably the biggest issue that we faced was about probably 10 years ago when we brought in the Wildcat system and funded it. And so what that does is allow every library in the state to trade books and send them to different libraries if they've been requested. And it's just a wonderful thing that at least the legislature stood up and helped fund. And so I would hope that we as a library would continue our membership with that organization, because that organization advocates for what's best for the libraries across this state. And I don't believe that we can stick our head in a bucket of sand and watch the world go by. We have to be part of this organization. And the organization, the organization advocates for all libraries. You don't have to agree with everything that they say, but if you're not a part, then you're not a part of their advocacy. And so I would ask this board to continue our membership with the Wyoming Library Association, because we're the third largest state in population, or county in this state. A library association can't continue unless it has membership and dues being paid to it. And so it's very important that we be a part of that advocacy and that we work with the legislature. And so if you have any questions, I'm open for questions at this time. Thank you.
Susan Butt. Oh, is it Bennett? You need to write better. Little one.
Justin? All right, thank you. I wasn't here last week, and so I have a little bit of unfinished business that I just wanted to clear up. I understand that some people were looking for the information about George Soros funding the ALA, and I brought you that information. I would like to hand it to all of you guys. But at this week of Thanksgiving, I just want you to know, I am so thankful for our new board. This is the first meeting that I feel I've really learned a lot with that presentation from Darcy. I've never seen so much information and so much questioning of a board that's really looking for answers and transparency. I find that refreshing, and I appreciate it very much. So I am grateful for you all. I'm going to give you a copy of the research that I found out where George Soros was funding the ALA, and I know there was some interest in that. And I just want you to know that I think the library is doing a lot of good things, and I love our library. But after that presentation, I think when you guys are considering your policies, that the merit for further investigation, maybe look at that for your policy, and also the educational literary value of books, because I've been sitting at these meetings for over a year, and I've been seeing many books brought up that had very little literary merit or educational value. The books were not about how-to sex, and also we're not supposed to be pushing sex on children, which is a big thing going on in our society. A lot of times if you follow the money, and that's with the George Soros thing, you're going to see agendas behind them. So I just wanted to come today to present that information to you so you have some documentation on your hands to refer to. And thank you again. You guys are doing an excellent job. Thank you.
What's that?
And chocolate. So are you done then? Thank you, Susan. Ellison K. What's the last name? Clint. Sorry.
Hello everyone, it's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Ellison Clint. I am a high schooler at Thunder Basin High School. I'd like to start off my speech with a quote. Coloringcolorado.org says that books with diversity offer a powerful opportunity to build community, increase empathy, and push back bias. Having to find out that books about diversity, sex education, and the LGBTQ are being banned breaks my heart. We are the equality state. It is now 2022, and we are still coming up with reasons to not being inclusive towards others. By banning books that include diversity and other topics that I mentioned before will cause many issues in the upcoming generation. This is affecting my future. My first point is it's a lack of education, or it will cause lack of education. The ones who are most affected by this is students. At this point in time, the only life we know is what our parents are taught by us. So books with representation helps teach people new ideas. And you may be asking to yourself, well, what does teaching new ideas cause? It causes students to become more accepting towards others. It helps almost kids acclimate into new environments. So when they are brought, into school and they see someone who is a part of the LGBTQ, their first reaction is not to be hateful. One of my subtopics is that kids will react negatively to things that they have never seen. So banning books can cause racism and homophobic to increase. Sorry. Okay.
You're doing good. Go ahead.
My point too is that not all kids are given the same opportunities. Luckily, in my household, sex education and being able to know sexuality was a very open topic, but not all parents teach that. So a lot of students and a lot of even my personal friends had to grow up wondering what was wrong with them, wondering why am I liking the same gender. They didn't know anything towards sex education, so they didn't know anything on how to have protected sex, and by adding in those books, it fills in those gaps of knowledge. Am I allowed to ask you guys questions? Okay, sorry. My point 3 is that banning books does not stop children's beliefs or sexual orientation. Sexual orientation brings me back to biology. It is a makeup of genetic influences and hormonal influences. Kids will learn about the LGBTQ in sex education somehow, and I think that it would be a great opportunity for you guys to be able to offer these books for these kids. Again, I was told that you guys thought that putting this on was, I don't know how to say, pornography. Sex education should not be pornography. Sex education is a beautiful thing, and it can prevent deaths. STDs can cause deaths. It can prevent suicides for kids who don't feel inclusive in their communities. So I would really just like you guys to reconsider the possibility and the consequences that you will cause if you ban books.
It hung up and now it's working again.
Well, we're planning on it, right?
Yes.
Hannah Van Heft?
Hoff.
Sorry.
I would like to thank the board for letting me come here and speak. Can everyone hear me okay?
Speak a little bit louder. Be bold.
Can everyone hear me okay?
There
So I'd like to thank the board for letting me come forward and speak. I am here to speak about the potential banning of diverse and inclusive books in the library. And I just want to say I'm a current teacher in the district. I teach high school. And I am against the banning of diverse and inclusive books in our library because they are so important to childhood education and to increasing the cohesion and the adaptability of children in school. Children in the LGBT community become very marginalized if they do not have access to safe places or content where they feel included. And this can lead to harassment and bullying and even violence, as we saw in the Colorado shooting a few days ago. In the school district and in the building and is in individual classrooms, we try to teach diversity and inclusion and tolerance and acceptance of everyone, of every lifestyle. And I think that taking books away from the community is going to decrease that amount of understanding, and it won't help kids learn about their peers or their future colleagues, or about their neighbors or their friends or their family.
So I am in support of continuing to keep diverse and inclusive books in our library.
Hugh Bennett?
Good evening. Can you hear me? I'd like to clear up a few things that I've been noticing concerning this discussion, or should I say conflict. The people who believe that there is a time and a place for sex education and it's not at the age of 6 or 7 are not attacking the library. They're trying to protect children from perversion. Now, if you would care to acquaint yourself with the literature of studies made of gay lifestyles or LGBTQ or gender dysphoria, that sort of thing, you'll find, without exception, most of the studies, well, all the studies without exception, will say that there are health risks and shortened lifespans and a higher suicide rate with these sorts of behaviors. Does that mean that we should bully these people? No, nobody's saying that. What we're saying is protect the children. A society that does not protect the family unit or the children may not be a society that's going to last very long. Ancient Rome fell into some problems with morality, and they fell eventually. America hasn't been around even half the time ancient Rome lasted. And immorality and that sort of thing tended to hasten their disappearance from the world scene. Now, we've been attacked for being intolerant and hateful. I am not hateful. The Bible I read and the God that I worship tells me I do not have the right to hate somebody else or judge them. That's not my job. We do believe that people who are innocent or who are being led off to slaughter, as it says in Proverbs, should be held back and should be protected. Protecting the weak of our society makes us a strong society. So, we haven't been attacking them. They did deface a Baptist church, and they have had death threats, and my wife's been subject to harassment. We haven't done that to their side. And mass resistance, a lot of people may not know this, but it's Massachusetts is where the mass comes from. It's just a state name, and that's where their headquarters is. And they defend and promote the nuclear family, which is a man and a woman, and there is sex involved there. We're not against sex. We're not against the LGBTQ plus community. We are against grooming children that are not developmentally ready. Kids don't need how-to books when they're 6 or 7 years old. We're not trying to ban books. We're not trying to censor them. We're trying to protect the next generation. It's not about the library being good or bad. We have an excellent library, and a lot of that has to do with the generous funding that the Campbell County Commissioners and the community has made, and with the excellent people that have been staffing this library that are very helpful. Very few bad reports on the library and their ability to function as a library and provide what the community asks for and wants. I think they're pretty responsive to most everything we ask about. But that doesn't mean that we should not protect kids from material they're not developmentally ready for. I've heard people discuss or talk about feeling bullied or unsafe. Where has anybody done that in this discussion? We're just asking that the children not be exposed to materials that are not appropriate for their age and development. Children don't know how to have sex at the age of 6 or 7, nor is it a requirement for them at that age. At any rate.
It's time, Hugh.
Okay, they shouldn't be
The thing is
exposed
not working.
to mature sex material before they're mature. And thank you for hearing our discussions about this, and thank you for living in a country where we can still talk.
Thank you.
I do. We'll see. Can everybody hear me?
Can I have a point of order? If you guys are gonna have a conversation, can you please go step out? We are trying to listen to the person in front of us. Yes, of course. Thank you for being respectful.
Okay, are we good? Okay, good afternoon, board members. My name is Kathy Halverson. I'm a taxpayer, a voter, a library patron, and I've been a citizen of the community since some of you were toddlers, except for Charlie.
Oh, Charlie.
I just heard some stuff that kind of makes me have to change what I was going to talk about to begin with. I can give you all kinds of information that is different than what you've been given from Susan Bennett and Hugh Bennett. And I can show you on the Open Society Foundation website, which is George Soros' foundation, where they do not fund the ALA. So I can show that to you, anybody, if they want to see that. So back to my original thing. I'm concerned about any changes that the collection policy could be that you are looking at for the collection policy that could affect the availability of books that I want to read. Some on this board and the county commissioners have mentioned community standards, which is what you want the books in the library to represent. I think I probably have different community standards. For instance, these are some books that I've recently checked out from the library. On Tyranny, 20 Lessons from the 20th Century by Timothy Snyder. That book has been checked out 28 times since 2017. Betrayal by Jonathan Carl. That book has been checked out 7 times since 2021. Weapons of Mass Delusion, How the Republican Party Lost Its Mind by Robert Draper. This is the book that I asked the library to obtain. It has only been in the library a few months. It's been checked out 3 times already and is currently checked out. I also helped put out the nonfiction books and organize them for the used book sale. I saw a lot of books on politics, social justice, and many other topics that you would consider left-leaning that were donated by community members. So I don't feel that you all know what books the community wants to read. I feel that librarians know that. And I think the collection policy should remain in the hands of the librarians where it belongs. I just want to make sure that I'm going to still be able to request the books that I want to read if they're not on your book reading list. So I hope that's going to continue to happen. Thank you.
Thank you. D.B. Worthington? I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
This is from work, yeah. I don't need to sit down, I'm fast. Madam Chairman, I really signed up to address the 10, 11-year-olds needing an adult to come to the library, and that was taken care of under unfinished business. I would like to say that I totally support Terry, our librarians, their professionalism, their expertise. As a professional educator, I was trusted with what I did in my classroom. I trust you to make the right decisions, and I've agreed with what you made. Thank you.
Deb Proctor?
I could say ditto to what Dee Dee just said. I certainly support 199% Terry and the other professional librarians. I believe they're doing an awesome and great job. And I'd like to remind the library board of their mission statement, which I think is so important, and that is that we provide information materials and activities for all of Campbell County, not just a selected few. Thank you.
Lee Jacobs.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Am I the only person who sees the irony in the conversation about this is our local community? We do things differently here because this is Campbell County, this is Gillette. We're different than other places in the nation, yet we're going to sympathize with Mass Resistance, who you're telling me is from Massachusetts. My place of employment got a harassing phone call from someone with Mass Resistance out of California. So you're relying and sympathizing with people who are not from this community, yet that's what you are kind of using as your backbone to come harass the library. I also want to refresh Hugh's short-term memory when it comes to he's not bullying anybody, because I think we all remember our library staff being harassed on a daily basis with phone calls and people coming to the library. Our library staff had to call in counselors to counsel their staff because of the bullying. So I just want to remind you of that because you seem to have forgotten. And you know, Susan Bennett talks about literary merit. Books about transitioning might not have merit to her, but to a person who is transitioning, there's a lot of merit within that literature. Books about hunting provide no merit for me, but I'm not that self-centered to believe the library should not include books that don't have anything to do with me. So I know when people bring up banning books, your first retort is we're not banning anything because you know that's wrong. But what you are doing is scrutinizing a collection policy, and you are scrutinizing all these library policies that have been in place forever. So you can find ways to limit resources to this group of people that you are targeting and harassing. So when you're cutting ties with ALA, who you know supports diverse like materials for everybody, that's like, we see what's happening. We're not blind to it. So you can say it's not about LGBTQ rights. You can say it's not about discrimination, but it clearly is. You can shake your head. I know that it is. Everybody knows that it is. So the only people getting harmed because of that is our library staff, and our community as a result is suffering because of choices you're making and your self-servingness.
You should not be addressing other people. If you have a beef with them, go talk to them.
So we're not your stage for you to come talk to someone else. If you need to talk to someone else, you go do that. You are here to address the board, please. Do not talk about back and forth to each other here. Thanks, guys.
Teresa Miller.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Hi, my name is Teresa Miller. I am a co-founder for the Gillette chapter of the Parents, Friends, and Families like anti-LGBTQ crusade that's being waged against this library. I am heartbroken and sickened by the violence and death inflicted on the LGBTQ community in Colorado Springs on Saturday night. My prayers go out to the families of the 5 souls who were brutally taken from this world, and for those who were injured and traumatized by this act of hate. Gillette PFLAG hosted a drag queen show in Gillette that night. It was so much laughter and fun and love was shared by all the people who attended. The energy was beautiful and overwhelmingly positive. We felt safe. As we were cleaning up the venue afterwards, we all felt so happy and relieved that we didn't have any negativity except for a few ignorant comments on Facebook about how our community standards do not approve of this kind of perversion. Imagine our shock and disbelief and sorrow when we woke up the next morning to learn that while we were celebrating and enjoying a wonderful show, only a short distance away, people were being slaughtered and wounded. And for what? anti-LGBTQ cohort here in Gillette, here in this room, is this. Is this okay with you? Did you secretly applaud the actions of that hateful man? Did you go to church that Sunday morning and offer prayers of thanksgiving that 5 more queers were sent to hell? If the answer is yes to any of these questions, please stop. You are killing us. Do not for 1 minute think that this kind of hatred doesn't exist in Gillette, or that your loved ones are safe from this horrible evil. Your parents, siblings, children, spouses, friends, neighbors, co-workers, allies in the LGBTQ community here have targets on their bodies. Are you okay with that? Do not think for 1 minute that these acts of violence and trauma are going to drive us back into the shadows. It's scary as fuck, but we are not going to be silenced or disappear. It's difficult to remember to love at this moment of grief and tragedy.
Teresa.
We cling to each other and offer each other our strength and support, love and hugs to all of our peeps. I am an ally to the human race.
Sue Niesel.
Yes, I'm back again. With my education and my background, I do like to share what I know and have learned over the years. And I was going to speak on the child policy because I helped write the one that you said was not available. It was out on the internet. It was on our webpage. You just needed to know where to look, and a librarian would have helped you find it. The other thing I would like to address, though, now is the denied membership to the Wyoming Library Association and the American Library Association. All other employees in the Campbell County community, from the commissioners, have in their budgets training and opportunities to belong to professional organizations and be reimbursed or have their dues paid and their membership paid. You have singled out the library as the only place that may not associate with the only professional organization available to help them do a good job. We are affiliated and have always been affiliated with the Wyoming Library Association. I was their president 1 year. I have learned so much, and as an example, one of the things I want to talk about is STEM, because you may not be aware of it, but I did attend the American Library Association conventions, and staff were able to come with me. We either wrote grants or were supported by county money, many times and many years. And one of the things a long time ago we learned about at an American Library Association meeting, which was new then, was STEM activities. And if you don't remember what that means or have not been exposed to it, it is the science, technology, engineering, and math education. And where the library fits in that. There was nothing here in our state, nobody had any idea about that. So I came back from that armed with that wonderful information about how to incorporate that into our library. It coincided with the addition of closing in the courtyard, so we had room finally for school-age children at the library. And one of the things they talked about was the importance of Legos in training and helping kids learn engineering, spatial abilities, and all of the wonderful things that come with that. They're more than toys, very much more. And in the teen and the children's area, I don't want you to be misled to think that all we have there are things for kids to play with. There is not anything in those departments that's not educational. It's meant to level the playing field in our community, because if you bought any Legos lately, you know how expensive that toy is. It's very expensive, and we help provide information, but not just information at our library, but we do try to level the playing field for our socioeconomically challenged families here. And by saying we can't belong to organizations like the American Library Association, the Wyoming Library Association, I think you're dreaming that if you think that our library staff is paid well enough to go out and pay their own way to anything.
And I noticed you had said that when, as a teacher, you paid your own dues. I know lots of teachers whose principals send them to things. So I would like to recommend that you consider us rejoining and thank Senator Wasserberger for joining us today.
Cliff Niesel?
I'd like to thank the board for this opportunity. What I want to talk about, and I want to thank the library staff and you, Terry, for the job you do. Thank you. Is this on? Yeah. We keep hearing about a committee, okay? We all hear about this committee. There was a report, but how does somebody get on that committee? Can they volunteer? Who decided the committee makeup? You or the board? I know of one community member who declined being on this committee because they said it wasn't necessary. I see no transparency in what's going on right now. No board discussion today, though you've appointed the committee. Was the whole board, every board member, part of that decision or no? It's interesting. The bylaws sound like a library committee should be made up of library board members, not anybody outside the library board. If they have recommendations, this committee, what training is it based upon? Do they have training in selecting material for children, like your college-educated staff here at the library? Who will do the task of looking at the books? Whose opinion will they represent? I don't know the purpose, but will this committee be expanded to look at all books in the library again? To what purpose? Thank you. And hopefully, the December board meeting, board training, will give you a clearer picture of what you're supposed to be doing. Thank you.
Jeff Cruz?
My name is Gail Cruz, and I just want to bring us back a little bit to our original purpose for our concerns here. And it has to do with the children. It has to do with children's mental health, emotional health, physical health. And the books that so many people are very concerned about are ones that promote heterosexual and homosexual promiscuity. And where's that lead? How many medical journals do we have to read to understand what's at stake and the consequences for children, all the diseases that are available? And I don't think there's any disclaimers in the beginning of any of these books, are there, about if you do what is promoted in this book, whether it be heterosexual or homosexual, beware. This, and this are very possible and mostly likely. I've been doing some research on the effects of pornography on adolescent brains. It's very interesting. I would suggest everybody in this audience go to the NIH or any other medical or research organization, start looking up actually what the science is out there. Just one of the articles I read, in the conclusion it says, first, sexually explicit media exposure in early adolescence was strongly related to 3 risky sexual behaviors. Early sexual debut, we know what that means, the age at which you start having sex. Unsafe sex, and the multiplicity of sexual partners. I don't think any of us want our children to be involved in that, do you? And in late adolescence, this bears fruit. The other thing I've been researching is the addiction in adolescence to pornography and what it leads to, and it's hair-raising. They start to think that that is what sex is, And the more modalities that are used in the pornography, the more severe the changes are in the brain. Children, as they grow up in their early 20s, after 18, start to prefer sex online or in a book and not with human beings, because after all, human beings can never live up to what's portrayed in books and online. And so my big concern, I don't care if it's heterosexual or homosexual, when you promote the kinds of behavior that are shown in these books, you're doing a lot of damage to children. So I'd sort of like to get our focus back again. Thank you.
Dallas, Remy?
Is this on? Hi, so state statute 187-103B states that a county library board of directors shall be appointed by the county commissioners and shall be composed of not less than 3 and not more than 5 competent and responsible residents who are representative of the entire county. Now, with that in mind, I would like to reflect on some of the things I heard on Vic Wright's radio show that gave me some cause for concern. In the past, I've heard Chairwoman Bear say that the board's agenda is not rooted in anti-LGBT sentiments. But when this was brought up on the radio show, going back to where this all started, where the root of this came from, was anti-LGBT sentiments towards Pride Month and towards a transgender magician. So rather than answer the question, she said, well, there was a lot of talk of witchcraft and other things, but those have gone to the side. So rather than admonish the anti-gay agenda, which is what a normal responsible person would do if that's not what is actually in mind here.
Point of order.
You chose to,
Hold on.
You chose to say other stuff, and by other
wait,
stuff.
You'll get your turn. What's the point of order?
A point of order cannot be raised by a member of the audience.
Oh, it
They
can?
can only be raised by members of the board.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
So, rather than admonish the anti-gay agenda that some in this community are pushing, she chose to say the other things have gone to the side. And I think it's safe to say that she means the other things are the anti-gay stuff. When a topic or idea is up for discussion and is put to the side, it implies it will be revisited later. Also, Mass Resistance's new article is claiming the board cutting ties with the ALA is a big victory that was the culmination of hard work by Mass Resistance parents. Mass Resistance is not what I would call bashful about their hate of the LGBT community. And this article continues to express their bigoted views of that community. The article also claims that this new conservative majority board welcomes the ideas of Mass Resistance parents. And they are in essence making the claim that they have influenced this board's decisions. Now, reverting back to Statute 187-103B, I do not think anybody can be considered a responsible resident if they are influenced by a hate group that engages in stochastic terrorism, which leads to the sort of things we saw happen in Colorado over the weekend. From the perspective of this taxpayer, an actual parent of a child who uses the library, is beginning to look like members of this board may be working with the aforementioned hate group to actively peddle their agenda of hate, vision, and fear. If this isn't true, I would like a statement from each and every board member admonishing this group and that they are not affiliated and do not support their agenda.
Is it because both of those mics are on at the same time?
Dawn Druska? Did I get it wrong? All right. Cheryl Bumhoff.
Well, I'd like to commend and thank the board for making decisions that reflect community standards. It's been stated before, we're not New York, Chicago, or any other major city. Wyoming is considered the most conservative state in the country, and Campbell County is one of the most conservative counties, if in fact not the most conservative. This is reflected in the people we elect to office. That conservatism was evident in the last election. I don't know if you've received an amount for the ALA membership from the director, but someone called into the radio when 2 board members were on and claimed it was $1,200 per year. On the ALA website, memberships are listed as varying from $155 to $41 per year, depending on employment status and location. So once again, I'd like to thank you for adopting policies that protect the children in this community. And I knew the shooting in Colorado was going to be addressed. A year and a half before he was arrested in Colorado Springs, gay nightclub shooter, a nightclub shooting that left 5 people dead, Anderson Ulrich allegedly threatened his mother with a homemade bomb, forcing neighbors in surrounding homes to evacuate, while the bomb squad and crisis negotiators talked him into surrendering. Yet despite that scare, there was no public record that prosecutors moved forward with felony kidnapping and menacing charges against Ulrich, or that police or relatives tried to trigger Colorado's red flag law that would have allowed authorities to seize the weapons and the ammo that the man's mother said he had with him. This had nothing to do with the gay community. This man was sick and he had a gun that he shouldn't have had. So I wanted to spell that right now, that I think that was a horrible thing to have happen, but he would have done it to his own mother. So I just wanted to clarify that and read that. That was updated 2 hours ago. Thank you.
Thank you. Dean Bumhoff.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak in front of you. I really appreciate all that you've done. And this about community standards. We all have a voice in community standards. That's because we all get a chance to vote for our county commissioners, and they pick this library board, or pick this board. The commissioners picked you because they liked your views out of all the other applicants. You were doing a good job, and we appreciate your hard work. I've been coming to the library board, along with quite a few others, for a year and a half now. Reason is, we do not want sexually explicit material in the hands of our children. I would think that any rational thinking person would agree, but obviously that is not the case. When a question was asked, should children as young as 5 be exposed to pornographic material, half of the people in this audience, or half a dozen in this audience raised their hands, including a librarian with 30 years in the youth area. All this has ever been about is sexually explicit material out of the hands of children. And of course, we did not approve of the transvestite doing the magic show for kids. In response, we formed a peaceful protest, and then a local church was vandalized. We obviously do not agree, but the opposition has no respect for law and order. Many of them are librarian workers, teachers, yet they continue to talk, disrupt the meeting by talking out of turn and yelling, "Your time is up." This is not their call, but the chairman's. Last month, when Madam Chairman had rules set for debate and made it very clear, one person, which I won't mention, steps over to the opposing side just to make a mockery of your debate. I am thankful that you bring law and order to this process. The previous chairman failed to maintain control, and when asked to do so, he just laughed. I'm glad you got rid of your screwdriver and you got a bigger tool. Thank you.
Sarah Painter.
Thank you for acknowledging community standards, and thank you for letting me speak. The library book was challenged.
Sarah, can you hold that close to your mouth, please?
Like this?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for acknowledging community standards, and thank you for letting me speak. A library book was challenged in 2021 which glorifies underage drinking. In October 2022, 2 adults were removed from positions on Campbell County boards due to unproven accusations that they drank alcohol at an event. This library claims to prepare children for real life, yet they are training children that drinking is fun and empowering, while citizens are punished for drinking in adult life. Campbell County and Wyoming community standards are not nebulous. They are unequally enforced. The executive director of Wyoming Equality said that their youth are preyed upon, but they do not report these offenses as that would be outing someone. Citizens who don't wear the LGBTQ label continue to be prosecuted for sex crimes, including for showing pornography to children. Predators and their supporters are vocal about mass resistance opposing their efforts to sex trade children, calling it anti-LGBTQ. Gays against groomers and trans against groomers are also anti-LGBTQ, which is not the same as anti-diversity. This struggle is not about sex education. It is about training children to do what is perversion in the eyes of the law. Teaching children strangulation for sexual pleasure and to have sex with adults and with each other when it is illegal for them to do so. Bloody drawings in picture books for toddlers teaching violence, suicidal ideation to vulnerable youth. I agree that a select few should not decide the books in the library, but if this is also okay with the majority of our community, why does the local news media keep hiding what the book materials actually are? These predators know they are harming children, which is proven by the fact they are working to pass a bill which will remove parental rights to challenge any reading material, including graphic child pornography. And that bill will contain a protection clause for themselves that says, quote, "No teacher or school librarian shall be liable for harm caused by any act or omission of the teacher or school librarian if the actions of the teacher or school librarian were carried out in conformity with the right to read," unquote. Gillette City ordinances are prefaced with, for the health, safety, and morals of the community. Librarians are violating the moral codes in our community, which are legislated and enforced, and thereby undermining children's understanding of and respect for the law. Thank you for your continued efforts to reflect community standards, including morals, through material provided to kids at the public library. Thank you.
Thank you. Avery Swanson.
I was originally going to read off this paper here, but in light of recent comments, I'm going to change it a little bit. If you don't remember the phrase, if you don't remember history, you're forever doomed to repeat it. That you need to figure that out now. This may seem controversial to some people on the board and in the crowd, but I need to put it simply and lay it down. Censorship of books is an inherently fascist ideology. The most famous act of censorship of art, literature, and freedom of expression happened in 1933. Adolf Hitler revoked the right to free speech and the freedom of the press in Germany. This was used to censor any criticism of Hitler, but it was also used to censor any books or other media that he deemed non-German. These were books that he described as perverse, degenerate, or any other words that you hear mass resistance using in front of you today. A major part of Nazi censorship also goes hand in hand with the proposals of censorship of all the mass resistance activists, and that is the works of gay or any other LGBTQ authors. Nazis brutally enforced censoring gay newspapers, journals, literature, and art. Just like mass resistance, which the board continues to hear out, anything that contained references to sex or sexuality that the Third Reich did not approve of was viewed as degenerate and corrupting to the German people. The most interesting part of Nazi censorship, however, is the existence of degenerate art galleries. They wouldn't always burn art made by marginalized groups. They would display it in special galleries around the country to prove to the world just how terrible these groups were. coming back full circle to mass resistance, what do you see them do at every board meeting? They show the books on their website. They show the books. They show these pictures. They describe them in graphic detail. If they thought these books were really dangerous, would they be showing them around in rooms where kids are in them? No. It's about power. It's about feeling self-righteous, and it's not about books being dangerous. If this is making you feel uncomfortable, it should. You should identify within yourselves that you are sympathizing with fascist and Nazi ideologies. So after this is all over, go home and think to yourself, if you really want to be remembered as the person who tore down the First Amendment and our rights as Americans, or if you want to be the one who stood up to fascism and defended our rights. Thank you.
I want to make sure I get my time right this time. All right, thank you, board, for letting me speak here as a local educator. 30 years ago, when I was a teenager, kids often rebelled, like they do today, against their parents and other adults. They smoked cigarettes, they smoked joints, they dragged Maine, and often break the speed limit as a way of socializing. Some even kept dirty magazines under their beds or watched HBO after midnight. Times have changed. Technology has changed. Kids no longer smoke cigarettes or joints, or even really drink alcohol like they used to. They vape, nicotine, THC, and Delta-8. They no longer drag Maine or hang out at the gas station. They snap, they text, or they engage in weird TikTok challenges that end in vandalism. They no longer have dirty magazines under the bed. Instead, they're able to access harmful material about drugs or bombs, sex, even some alternative facts about maybe George Soros and the ALA. They can do all of this, find all of this harmful information online with a keyword search or a click of the computer, stuff that would make even Hugh Hefner uncomfortable. And yet, recently on the radio, library board members stated that they were opposed to books with sexual content and to indoctrinated librarians for our societal ills and teenage problems. This doesn't make any sense to me, because I, like most people in this room, know that reading a book won't get you pregnant. It won't give you an STD. It won't even groom children for sexual exploitation. People do those things. People in positions of power, like a family friend or a fire chief, but not a librarian. In fact, none of our librarians are on the local county's sex registry list. They've been thoroughly background checked. Yeah, the library may have a few books for parents and teens that contain facts, definitions, diagrams about body parts and sex. But these books were written to inform, and no one would actually find them arousing. And it's obvious our community needs to be educated, now more than ever, on the real problems facing families today, and stop putting the blame where it doesn't belong, on the public library. Thank you.
Carol Meyer.
On any fact. One speaker said that the LGBT had been attacked. There's been attacks on Jews. There's been attacks on Christians and murdered in their church. Churches defaced and burned. There's been LGBT that this has been done to, and that is not acceptable. When we fail to be civil in our discourse, then things like that happen. And there is a big need in this country for mental counseling and mental institutions. We are not haters, we just want the books moved to the adult section. And then parents should be able to decide if they want their kid to be exposed to them.
I challenge anybody in this room to read the books to their little children that are their grandkids or their own children. And I don't think you would do it. The world's largest library association has selected a self-proclaimed Marxist person to serve as their president. I support the library board in not wanting to be a part of that organization. What is Marxism? Marxism is a social, political, and economic philosophy named after Karl Marx. It examines the effect of capitalism on labor, productivity, and economic development, and argues for a worker revolution to overturn capitalism in favor of communism. As a result of this revolution that Karl Marx predicted, it would end private ownership, and that would be replaced by collective ownership. First under socialism, and then under communism. In the final state of human development, social classes and class struggle would no longer exist. So who would want to live under a government like that? That would not allow people to better themselves by working hard, earning their own money, and spending it the way they wanted. Each generation has made a better life for themselves and their families. We have freedoms in this country that we tend to take for granted. You give your freedoms away and you'll never get them back. With the American Library Association having so much influence through their programs and books, this has a profound effect on the minds of younger generations. And under a new president is going to be even more anti-American.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bruce Williams?
Hello, can you hear me? The response time on your public records requests are starting to exceed the national average. I don't know what the Wyoming average is yet. But I also realize you're a new board. You may not be used to what you have to do there, but I would encourage you to look at, kind of respond a little bit quicker on it. You don't have to. You do get them within 30 days. Just barely. And when they collect up at 30 days, you can see it becomes a pattern. All that. I would like to thank you, though, for pushing this community standards thing. I spent $9,000 here today. I'm going to challenge your standards, as it were. It may not impress the community of Gillette, but they will know that it comes from you deciding what our standards are. Okay? That'll come around about in April. George Soros, by the way, is a dog whistle for anti-Semitism. That can cost the state a lot of money. And your mass resistance, they support that. And apparently so do you guys. That's not a good thing. As far as kids having any kind of sex education at a young age, I don't know of a single rancher that their kids don't know what sex is all about by the time they're 5 or 6. And you know something? All those ranchers' kids, some of them are here, but most of them that I know are perfectly fine. And the comment about Rome, and it fell because it got corrupt. It fell not too long after the Christians took over. It had nothing to do with it. The Christians were the ones that got rid of a lot of the things in health going together. And it was when the Christians took over. Christians don't like me to tell them that, but that is the truth. So, that's all I have to say for tonight.
Thank you. Alyssa Hednick.
Hello, my name is Alexis Hedrick. Thank you for taking the time to allow me to speak. I am a parent of teenage boys as well as a teacher at the high school. I want to start off with a definition of equality. Equality is the state of being equal, especially in status, rights, and opportunity. And we are the equality state after all, and equality should extend to everyone, regardless of who they are, who they love, their gender, age, sexual orientation, ethnicity, or religion. Diversity and inclusion are positive things, and having books with diverse characters teaches us and our children to be tolerant and empathetic. I'm seeing a lot, it keeps coming back to religion, and also with the LGBTQ plus community. I think it's really important to remember that freedom of religion does not equal Christian supremacy. It is important to be careful when you are basing policy on personal or religious moral beliefs, because this is how you end up with religious extremism like the Taliban and Al-Qaeda, or those that decide they must be self-appointed morality police like they have in Iran, and carry out mass shootings and hate crimes against others. These types of things start with policies and legislation that exclude other and marginalize human beings. If we are so concerned about content and what kids have access to, then these should be conversations that should be happening at home and not policies that restrict access to books, information, and representation in our public library. Community standards should include and represent everyone in the community and not be based on views that exclude anyone else. I am honestly much more concerned about what children will find on their phones than anything that they can find in the public library that they have access to in the children or teen section. The library should be a safe place to access information without undue censorship.
Texas Fred.
Thank you. Proverbs 22:6, King James Version. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. I think it's pretty scary that there are people, parents in this community, who feel so unqualified to raise up their own children, they would implore you to limit the freedoms of other people's children. We can't go down that road. Having a strong library system is part of the very foundation of having a free society. Libraries are meant to open up worlds outside of our current realities. They give us a way to explore cultures and ideas that may never be known otherwise. Libraries are a means for our minds to travel when our bodies can't. I believe we should always be expanding our minds while also broadening our horizons, and libraries are a safe and entertaining way to make those possibilities a reality. That being said, it's very scary to know that this library board has taken actions that go in direct opposition to what county attorneys have recently advised. This library board is exposing people of this county and the taxpayers to lawsuits that we cannot afford. We have declining industries, declining revenues, people are looking for work, and this board is taking direct actions that put our financial security at risk. That is not acceptable. Thank you.
Chris Jones. Did I skip anybody? I didn't. Try her not this time. All right. other comments? Board member comments?
I don't have a microphone, can I? Put this one back. Thanks for meeting me in the middle. I needed to kind of walk. I did not intend to not be transparent, so can I give discuss a little bit more? So our book gradings committee, we met on the 11th. It was a Zoom meeting. We talked about some ideas that we had come across for book ratings, and this group, the intention, the scope of the group is to create a framework that patrons will use to rate the books. So patrons will be rating the books, not any special committee. We are just asking the committee that is made up of a diverse group of people with diverse beliefs to help us create a rating system that reflects everyone. And then it is just to create some content consideration ideas. So when I open, for example, I talked about the book, it's called Fighting Words. When I open that book, I can see the ratings in the front of it and decide, oh, maybe this one would work for my family, or maybe this is one I can just put aside and it's not for us. So it's just another way to have a review, and it comes from our community. And so I value our community and our voice, and so I think it is a good way to hear from everyone. In that way, it's grassroots. It's not any particular certain person choosing to read the books. So I feel like I had to dispel that myth. And then there was some people in attendance, the Gabby Messick, Candace Young, Sage Bear, Amanda O'Rourke, Gail Cruz, and myself. And one person did not respond to our email with our Zoom sent out, and the other person decided not to come. They didn't want to be a part of the group. So, so that's who attended, and yeah, thank you.
I'm sorry,
Let me share.
who was in the group?
Gabby Messick, Candace Young, Sage Bear, Amanda O'Rourke, Gail Cruz, and myself.
Any other board comments? I have a board comment. I wanted to thank both Janet Tharp and Jane for letting me know that there are 2 books with the title Long Boy, and I was wrong when I intimated on the radio that the more controversial title was in the kids area, and I will be more precise in the future.
Thank you for acknowledging that. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
No. Oh, no. I'm sorry. I'm gonna say one thing. No, actually, I just want you guys to know, I am a book reader, so for you guys high school people, I go down to the tea room and get books, and
Have conversations, please take it out of the room.
and I'm trying to read a bunch of different stuff. So, if you want me to read anything, send it my way, because I've read fiction, and I read this really good book, and it was so out of my comfort zone, but I read it. And I want, like, the kids that I work with at the elementary, like, read it. If you have questions, ask, talk about it. So if you have anything for me to read, I'm gonna be laid up for 2 months, and I'll be just sitting in my chair reading. So, thank you so much.
All right, motion to adjourn?
I so moved.
So moved.
All in favor?